So let's jump right in. I love what you share a lot about how women see themselves versus how God sees them. So can you talk with us, especially right now, there's a lot going on in the background in our country, our communities, and then you add on to the COVID, the pandemic, and then you add on to that in the last, I would say 10, 20, 30 years, that it keeps ramping up what women are supposed to do and do well and do perfectly and Pinterestly. And I think this just is kind of hit this peak for women of, I just can't do that anymore, but they kind of don't know where they fit from there. Like, I don't want to run this race, but I don't know what that looks like other than that. So with that kind of background, how do we navigate trying to see how God sees us and see who we truly are, our majestic selves versus what we maybe see when we look in the mirror? How do we kind of navigate that?
Well, you bring up so many good points. And I think a lot of it started, with Pinterest. And I told a little story in my book about, I had my first baby before the internet, basically. And I thought I was so awesome. I had no one to compare myself to. We lived in a teeny tiny basement condo in Washington, D.C. I had no mom friends. I was super lonely, but I really thought that I was this awesome mom, this fabulous designer, this great homemade cook. And then we moved to a new place. And it was kind of one of those communities where everyone was the same age and everyone had the same kids. And I would go over to people's houses, and their houses actually were like well decorated, and they had food storage, and they were cooking homemade bread. And I just remember thinking, it's so funny. Nothing changed about me, but because I started comparing myself to other people, I just felt worthless. I just felt like, oh, never mind. I'm not good at this, and I'm not good at that. And I'm actually horrible at this. Or I'll never measure up. And I kind of started to go inside myself because I think when we're in that spot, a lot of us, we retreat because we just don't want people to know how not amazing we are. And sometimes we're just not like willing to let ourselves, we don't even want to be confronted with it because we just don't feel great. And so I moped for a little bit, and I, pouted. And then one day, basically, the Spirit said to me, knock it off. And it was one of those times where it just taught me that there were so many gifts that I had that I could use. And maybe they weren't the type that were on display. But I'm a great talker, and I'm a good friend, and I had learned to be pretty brave about gathering women. And so I was able to reach out, and I created play groups and park days. And I think God really helped me to see that every talent is a gift and is necessary. And if we figure out what those are for us, if we start understanding a little bit of our purpose or a little bit of who God wants us to be, and I think sometimes that's a lot of pressure. Oh my gosh, what's my purpose? Who does God want me to be? That sounds so big, but really we can do it in really small ways. In who does God need me to be today? Or what talent do I have that I'd like to work on today? Or is there someone in my life who could teach me a little bit more about this? Because I think it sounds interesting. And it doesn't, I think we make it so big sometimes that that's just like one more overwhelming thing. Like all these women have purpose and I don't, but it's just small. It's so small. It's just today. It's just this afternoon. Who does he need me to be to my kids? What does he want me to learn? How can I improve just a little tiny bit?